The key turned halfway, then stopped. I jiggled it, cursed under my breath, and tried again. Nothing. After 3 grueling days negotiating maritime insurance claims in Baltimore, the last thing I needed was a broken lock on my own front door. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I pulled out my phone and dialed Helena's number. She answered on the 4th ring, her voice carrying that familiar tone of irritation she'd perfected over the past 6 months. "What do you want, Gavin?" "My key isn't working. Are you home? Can you let me in?" A pause. Then, cold as winter harbor water. "We changed the locks. Don't bother me and Rob again." The line went silent. I stood there on my own front porch, briefcase in one hand, phone in the other, processing what had just happened. Through the living room window, I could see movement inside. My house, my furniture, my life, apparently being redistributed without my consent. Gavin Sterling, 42 years old, maritime lawyer specializing in cargo disputes and insurance fraud. I'd spent 15 years building a reputation for being unflappable under pressure. Ship captains tried to intimidate me. Insurance executives attempted to buy me off. Opposing counsel threw everything they had at me in depositions. But my own wife locking me out of my house? That was a new one. I walked back to my rental car, a practical Honda that Helena always mocked as embarrassing, and sat behind the wheel. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. "Saw the locksmith truck at your place yesterday. Helena looked pretty cozy with that Rob guy. Thought you should know. Mrs. Patterson next door." Mrs. Patterson, 73 years old, retired librarian, and the neighborhood's unofficial intelligence network. If she was texting me anonymously, things were worse than I'd thought. Rob Turner, Helena's high school sweetheart who'd recently moved back to town after his divorce. I'd met him twice at gallery events, where Helena introduced him as an old friend while he stood too close and smiled too much. Blue-collar guy who worked construction, drove a lifted pickup truck, and apparently had opinions about my fancy lawyer lifestyle. I started the Honda and drove to the Marriott downtown. The desk clerk, a young woman with kind eyes, noticed my expression. "Rough day, sir?" "You could say that. I need a room for tonight. Maybe longer." "Of course. Will your wife be joining you?" I almost laughed. "No, definitely not." After checking in, I sat on the hotel bed and called Derek Chalmers, my senior partner at Morrison, Chalmers & Associates. Derek had been practicing law for 25 years and had seen every variety of human betrayal imaginable. "Gavin, you sound like hell. How did the Baltimore thing go?" "Fine. Settled for $800,000. But I have a personal situation. Helena locked me out of the house." Derek's tone shifted immediately. "When?" "Today. Changed the locks while I was gone. There's another man involved." "Jesus. Okay, first things first. Whose name is on the deed?" "That's the thing. The house is held in the Sterling family trust. My grandfather set it up in 1987. Helena's name isn't on it anywhere." A pause. "She doesn't know that, does she?" "I don't think so. We've been married 12 years. She probably assumes she has some automatic claim." "Gavin, listen to me very carefully. Don't do anything stupid. Don't try to force your way in. Don't confront her tonight. Come to the office first thing tomorrow morning. We're going to handle this the right way." After hanging up, I ordered room service and sat by the window, looking out at the harbor lights. Helena's gallery was 6 blocks away, in the trendy arts district she'd insisted was the only place serious artists could survive. I'd bankrolled that gallery for 3 years, watching her burn through my money on overpriced wine for opening nights and abstract sculptures that looked like expensive mistakes. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification from Instagram. Helena had posted a new photo, her and Rob sitting in my living room, wine glasses raised, with the caption, Finally free to be ourselves. New chapter starting now. Authenticity. New beginnings. Liberation. 47 likes already, including one from my daughter Jenna, who was away at college. I screenshotted the post, then opened my laptop and began documenting everything. Timestamps, photos, text messages. 15 years of maritime law had taught me that evidence was everything, and emotion was the enemy of good strategy. Tomorrow, Helena would learn the difference between changing locks and changing ownership. Derek's office occupied the top floor of a converted warehouse overlooking the harbor. Maritime law wasn't glamorous, but it paid well, especially when you were good at it. Derek had built the firm from nothing, and his reputation for ruthless competence had attracted clients from Boston to Miami. "Show me everything," he said, pouring coffee from an expensive machine that Helena had always coveted. I spread out my phone, the screenshots, Mrs. Patterson's text, and a folder I'd retrieved from my office safe that morning. Derek examined the trust documents first. "This is beautiful work. Your grandfather was smart. The trust owns the house, the trust owns the furnishings, and you're the sole trustee. Helena has no legal standing whatsoever. What about common law marriage rights? Not in this state, and even if there were, she'd need to establish abandonment or prove you'd gifted her an ownership interest. Hard to do when you've been paying all the bills." Derek smiled grimly. "She's committed at least 3 felonies I can see just from this Instagram post." "Felonies?" "Unlawful detainer, theft of personal property, possibly extortion, depending on what she's told this Rob character." Derek leaned back in his chair. "Gavin, I've known you for 8 years. You're one of the most methodical attorneys I've ever worked with. So I'm going to ask you directly, what do you want here?" I thought about Helena's smile in that Instagram post, the casual cruelty of locking me out of my own home, the humiliation of standing on my porch like a door-to-door salesman. I want my house back. I want her gone. And I want everyone who sees that Instagram post to understand exactly what kind of person she really is. Legal or nuclear? What's the difference? Legal means we file papers, get a court order, and she's out in 30 days with her dignity intact. Nuclear means we make this so public and so devastating that she'll be lucky to rent an apartment in the bad part of town. I looked out the window at the harbor where cargo ships moved slowly between the channel markers. Patient, methodical, unstoppable. Nuclear? Derek grinned. "I was hoping you'd say that. First, we need to document everything she's taken. Second, we need to establish a timeline of her theft. Third, we need to make sure the local media understands this story." "Media?" "Gavin, your wife just posted on social media about stealing a house. In a town this size, that's news, especially when the house belongs to a prominent attorney and she's celebrating with her boyfriend." We spent the next 2 hours planning. Derek would file an emergency motion for unlawful detainer and theft of personal property. I would compile a complete inventory of missing items. Our private investigator would document Helena and Rob's activities. "One more thing," Derek said as I prepared to leave. "Change all your passwords, bank accounts, credit cards, everything. If she's bold enough to steal your house, she's bold enough to empty your accounts." I drove to the bank first. Helena and I had maintained separate checking accounts, but shared savings and credit cards. The shared accounts had been cleaned out. $43,000 gone. The credit cards had been maxed out with purchases at high-end furniture stores and electronics retailers. My personal accounts were untouched, protected by passwords Helena had never known. I immediately froze the shared cards and flagged the fraudulent purchases. Next stop, the house. I parked across the street and called our security company. "Mr. Sterling, we've been trying to reach you. Your wife called yesterday and canceled the service. Said you were getting divorced and wouldn't be needing monitoring anymore." "She had no authority to do that. I want the service reactivated immediately, and I want copies of all recorded activity from the past week." "Sir, I'm not sure we can—" "I'm the homeowner and the account holder. My wife has no legal authority over this account. If you don't reactivate service and provide those recordings, I'll be filing a lawsuit against your company by Friday." 20 minutes later, I had the recordings on my phone. Helena and Rob had been busy. The cameras had captured them loading my antique watch collection, my father's coin collection, and several pieces of expensive art into Rob's pickup truck. They'd also recorded Helena giving Rob a tour of the house, pointing out which items were worth selling and which were Gavin's boring lawyer stuff. But the best recording was from yesterday evening. Helena and Rob, drunk on wine from my personal collection, discussing their plans. "He'll probably try to fight this legally," Helena had said, laughing. "But possession is 9/10 of the law, right? And he's never here anyway. I can claim abandonment." "What if he gets nasty?" Rob had asked. "Gavin? He's all talk. Spends his whole life reading contracts and arguing about shipping insurance. He wouldn't know how to fight dirty if his life depended on it." I saved that recording to 3 different cloud services. My phone rang. Derek. "Judge Morrison granted our emergency motion. Sheriff's Department will serve the papers tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. You'll have your house back by noon." "What about the stolen property?" "That's the beautiful part. The security footage you just sent me shows clear intent to permanently deprive you of your belongings. That's grand larceny in this state. Felony charges." "Will they actually prosecute?" "Gavin, she stole $50,000 worth of property and bragged about it on camera. The district attorney would be crazy not to prosecute." I hung up and looked at my house one more time. Tomorrow, Helena would learn that some locks are easier to change than others. I arrived at the coffee shop across from my house at 8:30 the next morning. The sheriff's deputy, a no-nonsense woman named Carol Jenkins, was already waiting. "Mr. Sterling, I'm Deputy Jenkins. I'll be serving the papers this morning. I've reviewed the documentation, and I have to say, this is pretty straightforward. Your wife has no legal claim to this property. What should I expect? Denial, anger, threats, tears, usually in that order. The boyfriend might try to get physical, but I'll handle that." Deputy Jenkins adjusted her radio. "The locksmith is standing by. Once I serve the papers, you'll have immediate access to your property." At exactly 9 a.m., Deputy Jenkins walked up to my front door and knocked. I could see Helena through the living room window, wearing my college sweatshirt and looking annoyed at being disturbed so early. She opened the door with an expression of supreme irritation that immediately shifted to confusion when she saw the uniform. "Helena Moss?" "It's Helena Sterling. What's this about?" "Ma'am, I have legal documents for you. Emergency order for unlawful detainer and theft of personal property." Deputy Jenkins handed Helena the papers. "You have 2 hours to vacate these premises." Helena's face went white. "This is my house. I live here. My husband abandoned us. According to these documents, the property is owned by the Sterling Family Trust, and you have no legal claim to occupancy. You'll need to gather your personal belongings and leave." Rob appeared behind Helena, shirtless and belligerent. "Who the hell are you?" "Sheriff's Department. Sir, I'm going to need you to step back and remain calm." "This is bullshit. Gavin can't just throw us out. We have rights." Deputy Jenkins' voice remained professionally neutral. "Sir, you have no rights to this property. You're trespassing. I suggest you gather your belongings quickly and quietly." Helena was reading the papers now, her hands shaking. "Grand larceny? This says I stole property. That's insane. This is my house. These are my things." "Ma'am, according to the security footage referenced in these documents, you removed valuable items belonging to Mr. Sterling with the intent to sell them. That constitutes theft." "Security footage?" Helena looked around wildly. "What security footage?" I walked across the street, timing my arrival perfectly. Helena saw me and her expression shifted from confusion to pure rage. "You bastard! You actually called the cops on me?" "I called a lawyer. The cops are just here to make sure you don't steal anything else on your way out." Rob stepped forward aggressively. "You think you're so smart with your fancy legal papers? This is Helena's home. She's been taking care of it while you were off playing big shot lawyer. Deputy Jenkins moved smoothly between Rob and me. Sir, I'm going to need you to calm down and step back. Taking care of it? I looked at Helena. Is that what you call emptying my bank accounts and selling my father's watch collection? Helena's face crumpled. Gavin, please, can we talk about this privately? I know this looks bad, but you don't understand the pressure I've been under. The gallery is struggling, and you're never here. And I just felt so alone. You felt alone, so you decided to steal my house and move your boyfriend in? It's not like that. Rob and I were just friends. He's been helping me with repairs and… Helena. I pulled out my phone and played the audio from the security footage. Her own voice filled the morning air. He'll probably try to fight this legally, but possession is 9/10 of the law, right? And he's never here anyway. I can claim abandonment. The color drained from her face completely. Rob grabbed her arm. You recorded us? That's illegal. You can't record people without their consent. Deputy Jenkins smiled. Actually, sir, in this state, homeowners can record activity on their own property without consent. It's perfectly legal. 2 hours, I said quietly. Take your personal belongings and go. Everything else stays here. Helena started crying then, the kind of manipulative tears she'd perfected during our marriage. Gavin, please, I made a mistake. I was confused and scared and I wasn't thinking clearly. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. I'll make this right. You posted on Instagram about how free you felt to finally be yourself. Congratulations. Now you can be yourself somewhere else. The locksmith arrived and began changing the locks back. Helena and Rob gathered their belongings in garbage bags, a detail that felt appropriately symbolic. Rob kept muttering threats under his breath, but Deputy Jenkins's presence kept him from doing anything stupid. As they loaded the last of their things into Rob's truck, Helena turned back to me. This isn't over, Gavin. I'll fight this. I'll get a lawyer. I'll tell everyone what kind of man you really are. Please do. I'm sure they'll be very interested in the security footage. She slammed the truck door, and Rob drove off with a dramatic tire squeal that impressed no one. Deputy Jenkins handed me the new keys. Mr. Sterling, I have to ask, are you concerned about retaliation? Sometimes these domestic situations escalate. No, Helena's all drama and no substance, and Rob's just a coward who thought he'd found an easy mark. But as I watched the truck disappear around the corner, I realized this was just the beginning. Helena had never been the type to accept defeat gracefully. Within an hour of Helena's departure, my phone started buzzing with notifications. She'd posted a lengthy Instagram story portraying herself as the victim of an abusive husband who'd used his legal connections to steal her home and destroy her life. Gavin Sterling is a monster who abandoned his family and then used his lawyer friends to throw me out on the street. He recorded me illegally and had me arrested for trying to protect myself. Please share this story so other women know what kind of man he really is. Domestic abuse. Corruption. Justice failed. The post had been shared 43 times already. Comments were pouring in from people who knew only Helena's version of events. I always knew there was something wrong with that guy. Helena is the sweetest person. This is so unfair. Lawyers are all corrupt. They protect each other. My phone rang. Derek. Have you seen social media this morning? Just now. She's claiming I'm abusive and corrupt. Good. Let her keep talking. Every post she makes is more evidence of defamation, but we need to get ahead of this story before it gets out of hand. What do you suggest? Full transparency. We release the security footage, the bank records, the timeline of theft. We let the facts speak for themselves. Won't that look vindictive? Gavin, she's already declared war. The question is whether you want to fight it with facts or let her control the narrative with lies. I spent the afternoon documenting everything, the Instagram posts, the comments, the shares. Helena's story was spreading through our social circle like a virus, and people were choosing sides based on incomplete information. My phone rang again. This time, it was Tom Bradley, a guy I'd known since college and considered one of my closest friends. "Gavin, what the hell is going on? Helena's posting all kinds of stuff about you on Facebook. She says you had her arrested?" "Tom, it's complicated. Can we meet for coffee? I'll explain everything." "I don't know, man. Sarah saw the posts and she's pretty upset. She thinks maybe we should stay out of this until things calm down." Sarah was Tom's wife and Helena's closest friend in our social circle. I could hear the shift in Tom's voice, the careful distance that meant he'd already decided which side he was on. "Tom, we've been friends for 15 years. Don't you think you should hear my side before making judgments?" "Look, I'm not making judgments. I just think it's better if Sarah and I don't get involved in your marriage problems." "She stole my house, Tom. She emptied my bank accounts and moved another man into my home while I was on a business trip." A pause. "That's not what Helena says." "Helena says a lot of things. Most of them aren't true. I don't know what to believe anymore. This whole situation is just messy. I think it's better if we take a break from hanging out until you guys figure things out." The line went silent. Tom Bradley, who'd been my best man at my wedding, who'd borrowed money from me twice, who'd called me at midnight when his father passed away, had just ended our friendship based on Instagram posts. I poured a glass of whiskey and sat in my reclaimed living room, looking at the spaces where my father's watch collection used to be displayed. Helena had been methodical in her theft, taking items she knew had sentimental value as well as monetary worth. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Saw Helena's posts. Always knew you were a piece of shit. Hope you're happy." Then another. "Your wife is better off without you." And another. "Corrupt lawyer destroys innocent woman's life." Typical. Helena's social media campaign was working. She'd positioned herself as the victim and me as the villain, and people were eager to believe the worst about a successful attorney who'd apparently destroyed a sweet, artistic woman's life, but two could play the social media game. I created a simple website, therealstory.com. I uploaded the security footage, the bank records showing the theft, the timeline of events, and Helena's own Instagram posts celebrating her liberation in my living room. Then I sent the link to everyone who'd shared Helena's posts. Within 2 hours, the narrative began to shift. The security footage was damning. Helena's own voice, bragging about stealing my house and mocking my profession, destroyed any credibility her victim's story might have had. The Instagram comments on her posts changed tone. "Wait, you stole his house while he was working? This security footage shows you planning to sell his stuff. That's theft. You moved another man into your husband's home, and you're the victim?" Helena tried to control the damage by claiming the recordings were fake, but the timestamp and her own Instagram posts from inside my house made that impossible to believe. By evening, she'd deleted her original posts and made her accounts private, but the internet never forgets, and screenshots of her claims were circulating alongside the evidence of her lies. My phone rang. Tom Bradley again. "Jesus, Gavin, I just saw the website. Why didn't you tell me all this earlier?" "I tried to. You said you didn't want to get involved." A long pause. "Look, I'm sorry. Sarah and I jumped to conclusions. We should have given you a chance to explain." "It's fine, Tom." "No, it's not fine. We've been friends for 15 years, and I threw that away based on Facebook posts. That's not the kind of friend I want to be." But the damage was done. Tom and Sarah weren't the only ones who'd chosen Helena's side without hearing the facts. My social circle had fractured along lines I'd never seen coming, and some relationships would never recover. Helena had wanted to destroy my reputation. Instead, she'd revealed the character of everyone around us. 3 weeks after reclaiming my house, I was working late at the office when Derek knocked on my door. "The district attorney filed charges today: grand larceny, fraud, and identity theft. Helena's looking at 3 to 5 years if convicted." "What about Rob?" Accessory charges. He knew the property was stolen when he helped her sell it. His lawyer's already talking about a plea deal. I leaned back in my chair. How do you think this ends? Helena's attorney will push for a plea bargain. Restitution, probation, maybe some community service. She'll avoid jail time, but she'll have a felony record. And the civil case? That's where we destroy her. Theft, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We're looking at damages in the low six figures plus attorney fees. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. We need to talk. Please. Helena. I showed Derek the message. He shrugged. Your call, but if you meet with her, record everything, and don't go alone. I agreed to meet Helena at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory with plenty of witnesses. She arrived looking haggard, wearing clothes I didn't recognize, and driving a beat-up Honda that was a far cry from the luxury SUV she'd been driving on my credit. Thank you for coming, she said, sitting across from me. I know you have every reason to hate me. I don't hate you, Helena. I'm just done with you. I made terrible mistakes, I know that now. I was angry and confused, and I felt like you'd abandoned our marriage for your career. So you decided to abandon our marriage for Rob Turner. She winced. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. Rob and I were just talking at first. He listened to me, paid attention to me. You were always working or traveling or buried in legal briefs. And that justified stealing my house? I wasn't thinking clearly. I felt like you'd already left me emotionally, so I convinced myself that I deserved something for all the years I'd spent alone. I studied her face, looking for signs of genuine remorse. What do you want, Helena? I want to make this right. I'll plead guilty to the charges. I'll pay back every penny I took. I'll sign whatever papers you want for the divorce. In exchange for what? Drop the civil lawsuit. Let me keep some dignity. I've lost everything already. My reputation, my friends, my gallery. Don't destroy what's left of my life. I thought about the 3 weeks since she'd been arrested. The humiliation of having her mugshot posted in the local newspaper. The collapse of her art gallery when her wealthy patrons learned about the theft charges. The social media campaign that had backfired so spectacularly that she'd become a cautionary tale about the dangers of false accusations. Helena, you destroyed your own life. I just documented it. Please, Gavin, I'm begging you. I know I don't deserve mercy, but I'm asking for it anyway. I looked at this woman I'd been married to for 12 years, who'd shared my bed and my dreams and my bank accounts, who'd thrown it all away for a construction worker with a pickup truck and a willingness to help her steal from me. The civil lawsuit stands. You made your choices, now you live with the consequences. Helena started crying, the real tears this time, not the manipulative performance she'd put on for Deputy Jenkins. I'm going to lose everything, my apartment, my car, everything. I'll be bankrupt. You should have thought about that before you posted on Instagram about how free you felt to finally be yourself. I stood to leave, but Helena grabbed my arm. Gavin, wait. There's something else. Something I haven't told you. What? Rob. He's not who I thought he was. After we got arrested, he blamed everything on me. Said I seduced him and manipulated him into helping me steal from you. He's telling people I'm crazy, that I forced him to go along with my schemes. I sat back down. And? He hit me last week, when I asked him to help pay for my attorney. He said I'd gotten him into this mess and now I could get myself out of it. Despite everything she'd done, I felt a flicker of concern. Are you okay? I'm fine, but I wanted you to know that you were right about him. He's not a good person. I was so angry at you for working all the time that I convinced myself any attention was better than being ignored. Helena, I worked hard to build a life for us. The house, the gallery, the lifestyle you wanted. I thought that's what you wanted from me. I wanted you to want to be home with me more than you wanted to be at the office. Then you should have said that, instead of stealing my house. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I know. I know I handled everything wrong. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. Rob was using me, and I was too stupid and angry to see it. I left the coffee shop feeling something I hadn't expected. Pity. Helena had destroyed her life chasing a fantasy of liberation that turned out to be another prison. But pity wasn't the same as forgiveness, and consequences weren't the same as cruelty. 6 months later, I sat in the courthouse as Judge Morrison read Helena's sentence. Guilty on all counts. 2 years probation, 200 hours of community service, and full restitution of $73,000 for the stolen property and fraudulent charges. Rob had taken a plea deal and received 1 year probation plus restitution. His construction company had fired him when the charges became public, and he'd left town shortly after. The civil lawsuit had been settled out of court. Helena agreed to pay $150,000 in damages, secured by a lien on her mother's house. She'd also signed an agreement never to contact me or post about me on social media. As we left the courthouse, Helena's attorney approached me. "Mr. Sterling, my client wanted me to give you this." It was a letter, handwritten on plain paper. "Gavin, I know you'll never forgive me, and I don't expect you to. But I wanted you to know that I understand now what I threw away. You were a good husband, and I was a selfish wife. I hope someday you find someone who appreciates what you have to offer. I'm sorry for everything. Helena." I folded the letter and put it in my jacket pocket. Derek joined me on the courthouse steps. "How do you feel?" "Tired, ready for this to be over." "It is over. She can't hurt you anymore." I looked up at the gray November sky, thinking about the past year. The betrayal, the theft, the public humiliation, the loss of friends who'd believed lies over evidence. "Derek, can I ask you something? Do you think I went too far? You mean the civil suit? The public exposure of her lies?" "All of it. Maybe I should have just divorced her quietly and moved on." Derek considered this. "Gavin, she didn't just cheat on you. She didn't just leave you. She tried to steal your home, empty your bank accounts, and destroy your reputation with false accusations. If you'd handled this quietly, she would have gotten away with it and probably done it to someone else. But now her life is ruined. No, now her life has consequences. There's a difference." That evening, I sat in my living room with a glass of wine, looking at the spaces where my father's watch collection had been displayed. Most of the stolen items had been recovered and returned, but some had been sold before the arrest and were gone forever. My phone rang. Tom Bradley. "Hey, Gavin. Sarah and I were wondering if you'd like to come over for dinner this weekend. We haven't seen you in months." "That's nice of you to offer, but I'm not sure that's a good idea." "Come on, man. I know things got weird during all that drama with Helena, but that's over now. We can go back to being normal. Tom, you ended our 15-year friendship based on Instagram posts. You didn't even give me a chance to explain before you decided I was the villain. That's not something I can just forget." A pause. "I said I was sorry about that. People make mistakes. Yes, they do, and sometimes those mistakes have consequences. So that's it? You're going to hold a grudge forever?" "I'm not holding a grudge. I'm just not interested in being friends with someone who abandons me the moment things get complicated." "That's not fair, Gavin. We were put in an impossible situation." "No, you were put in a situation that required you to choose between believing lies or asking questions. You chose to believe lies. That tells me everything I need to know about your character." I hung up and blocked his number. Some bridges, once burned, aren't worth rebuilding. Over the following months, I slowly rebuilt my social circle with people who'd either stood by me during the crisis or who were new to my life entirely. I started dating again, carefully and selectively. Helena moved to another state to live with her sister. The last I heard, she was working as a receptionist at a dental office and had given up any pretense of being an artist. Rob Turner had moved back to his hometown, and was working construction again. According to mutual acquaintances, he'd learned to keep his opinions about other people's marriages to himself. 1 year after the locks were changed, I was having dinner with a woman named Claire, a marine biologist who found my stories about maritime law genuinely interesting. She was intelligent, independent, and had never once suggested that my work was less important than her need for attention. "Do you ever regret how you handled things with your ex-wife?" she asked over dessert. I thought about Helena's letter, still in my desk drawer at home, about the friends who'd abandoned me and the reputation I'd had to fight to preserve. "No," I said finally. "I regret marrying someone who was capable of what she did. But I don't regret defending myself when she tried to destroy me." Claire nodded. "Good. I respect people who stand up for themselves." That night, as I locked my front door with keys that only I controlled, I realized that Helena had actually done me a favor. She'd shown me who my real friends were, taught me the importance of protecting myself, and cleared the way for a better life. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. The locks had changed, but I was the one who'd ended up free.